Hey guys, the following conversation is a short little conversation. We got interrupted because of a power outage, but we're most likely going to continue, and we'll do a second one because this couple was just very sympathetic, I guess you would say. You have Mathias Fritzen and Rebecca Roberts. They are both coaches. They have a lot going on, actually. It's just saying that they're coaches is probably an understatement. So we caught up. We have a lot in common. Rebecca is also an expatriate. Mathias is a fellow martial artist, turned into parkour guy, you know, jumping around on walls. And he's retired now, but total interesting couple. We instantly hit it off in this first meeting that we had where we just got to meet each other. So I'm looking forward to having them on again. And like I said, the power outage, we switched over to Zoom on my laptop really quick with my cell phone network just to finish off the conversation. But it pretty much, we have to do it again. So we will. I hope you enjoy what we did get on camera and on video, and look forward to doing it again. So enjoy. Are we good? Very good. All right. So today we have over Zoom Matt and Rebecca Roberts. Yep. It's my first, I didn't want to call it, it's kind of weird to call it a three-way. I don't want to call it that. But it's my first time that I've actually interviewed, well, not really interviewed, but had a conversation like this. I'm sure it's cool. We have a lot of things in common we were just talking about, so we can just jump right into that. I'll throw an intro into this video later. Matt was for a long time in his life a martial artist. I don't know if you ever really lose that title. You can always, you know, it's like riding a bike, really. And Rebecca, jumping on your YouTube channel and looking at your profile, you're a spacemaker. So that's an interesting thing, the spacemaker. And I like that video. We're talking about the space bar on your keyboard and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And one big thing, you're from Louisiana originally and living in Switzerland now. So that's true. That's this whole expatriate thing. And you've been living in Switzerland for how long now?
About 10 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, really, really wild.
The first thing I noticed about your accent is interesting.
I'm very curious what your perception of the accent is, because I'm a bit of a chameleon when it comes to accents, and so I'm curious what you pick up on. Yeah,
that's what happened to me too, though. I had the same thing. Like my English, I remember going back home to see my parents, and my neighbor that I grew up with. You know, he's like, "Your English changed." You know, I'm like, yeah. I don't notice that, you know, and I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I had to learn to speak much more clear English here where I am at, because no one really spoke it. So I just ended up learning how to pronunciate. Like when I pronunciate better in California, I'd had like this really lazy kind of slow blur English, you know. Yes. And because everyone understands you, just talk a little, you know. But is that kind of maybe where you think it changed a little? Because I noticed you speak also you pronunciate very clearly too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I realize that there are certain word structures and ways that just seem to get the message across clearer. Also in different countries, right? So that comes from traveling a lot as well. And you just realize that there's a certain cadence to the way that you speak, and also, like you say, clarity, pronunciation, because in your native tongue, especially in your native city, a lot of times you can get away with certain things that it just makes life a bit easier and simplified in other places.
But Switzerland is also just interesting in itself. I've never been. We're actually planning a trip out there with the family. We're thinking about meeting there for a ski vacation. We usually go to Austria.
Yeah.
But obviously Switzerland is it's always supposed to be, everyone, you know, says it's the bomb. Where are you guys located? Like, where are you close to geographically?
We're in Basel.
Okay.
So right at the point where France, Germany, and Switzerland meet.
And that's what I love about I always think about the tennis player, right, of Federer, because I'm always, ever since learning a second language myself, I have a huge immense respect for languages and the way that your brain changes when you learn a language. I didn't expect that to come like the way that you're, it just, it's almost personality even. You can say there's a different personality that I've developed since being in Germany. The Germans like it. They think it's like, yeah, I molded him to be like a German guy, But in Switzerland you have French, you have English, you have Schweizerdeutsch, right? And then in German, obviously it's not a big. I mean, I can't even understand Schweizerdeutsch. Yeah.
That was one of these moments where at some point in time, in general, I think it's not too big of a struggle, but when you first moved to Switzerland, there were a couple of times where, especially like out in the farmlands, you pass by somebody and I was feeling like, oh, I just don't understand what they say. And I looked to him and he goes, don't look at me. I don't know what he said. It's like, oh, okay. Sometimes, but then as with anything, as with any accent or region, you adapt, you learn, you start to understand a lot more. So sometimes just the key of time.
Yeah, but also, like in Basel, the local accent is pretty easy to understand. Like if you compare it to the more countryside accents, when you go further south, then it can get tough.
Yeah. It's interesting in Germany too, just having like from the North German, you have like this, they call it like this Fischkopf, the fish head type of, it's also very clean. I would say Hochdeutsch, like just very clean German. Yes. And then, the more you get towards, Bayern, and then you go down to like the Munich area and obviously into Austria. But again, I love that when I'm on vacation and the guys are selling the ski schools, they come into the hotel and they're like, okay, let's go, and they're like these surfer dudes, but they're basically on the slope all day and they're totally hitting on your wife in front of you. Just like, so we just go, and they have this accent, and Franzi, she just sits there and she's like, yeah. And I do the same thing. I was like, did you understand? She's like, I have no idea what he's saying. I was like, but he was cute about it. So yeah, I think he sold me some ski school tomorrow and
so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's an interesting thing. What was, I guess, as a fellow expat, you just have like, I actually almost don't like that term because it feels so negative, like expatriate, it's like.
Expatriated from my country. Yeah. It feels more like an adopted child.
Yeah. Yeah.
In some ways.
Because I ended up keeping my U.S. passport. Everyone has their own thing. How do you deal with citizenship and living in Switzerland and all that?
Same. So I still have my U.S. passport. It's fascinating, always around tax time. It's like, these moments I'm like, okay, yay for dual citizenship. Or not even dual citizenship, residency in another place other than the U.S. But it's a super interesting thing as well when it comes to family, when the idea of giving up a U.S. passport, it goes well beyond just piece of paper where I'm living. There's always these concepts of what is home, and that's such a fascinating topic, because whether or not it's regionally allocated where home is, or instead where the people that you love are, or whatever it might be, it's fascinating to explore that idea of where do I belong. So for me, it's not such a huge topic. It's fascinating going home, which I haven't been in a while.
That's crazy with COVID, huh? Yeah. Did you usually, before COVID, did you make it there once a year, or how did you get back home?
Yeah, exactly. That was always the idea, at least once a year, and then when possible, try and meet family around the world somewhere. Yeah. Let's go somewhere. Let's meet here.
Yeah, that's exactly. My mom is the same way. Obviously, we've got 3 kids, and so my mom's just like watching the kids grow on FaceTime, and it's just this last year. There's a lot more horror stories out there right now. We don't need to obviously jump into that. Everything's okay, but it's still like, come on, just get on a flight and get out here. And us traveling right now with 3 kids out to California feels like not even in the cards, you know. But
fair. Makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, just like for a minute there, we kind of went through our heads, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's enough just to do it when there's no like pandemic going on.
Yeah. Well, and it's even enough right now. Like Matthias's parents are obviously in Germany, and even just getting over there is a challenge right now.
Mathias, I didn't realize that you're from Germany originally.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I grew up in Duisburg.
Okay.
Where are you located right now?
I don't. Whenever I say it, I'm living in Pasewalk, it's like Pasewalk in English. It's close to the Baltic Sea, like in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern in the MacPom. Also,
okay.
Rostock is a big city close to us, or like Neubrandenburg, and we're about an hour and a half northeast of Berlin.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So
we've got one family member from that area. We have a dog, and we picked him up near Hamburg, actually.
Yeah.
So, from the north. Yeah.
What kind of dog you guys have?
Let's see if he's around. Avocito, come here.
So he's a half poodle, half Havaneser.
Cool.
He's a bit confused because he's half German and half Cuban. So he's got a wild, flamboyant side and then a very structured side.
Yeah, those are like really polar opposites as far as cultures go, right?
Exactly, but he's precious and he's hilarious.
That's cool.
And he definitely keeps us on our toes.
Yeah.
So that was when we had the opportunity to pick him up. There was just this chance.
Oh, cool. He's like, hey, what's up?
Like, come on, you have to love that little face, right?
Yeah, that's a cool mix. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He's just chilling, huh?
Nut job.
What's his name again?
Your first appearance on a podcast.
We played with his Latin roots, so his name is Havie.
Havie, yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, okay, I get it. So then when did you make your way down to Switzerland, actually, Matt?
Well, actually, I've been connected with Switzerland for a long time because of sport. I don't know. Do you know parkour, the sport where people jump from rooftop to rooftop?
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for, I don't know, since 2002 or so.
Oh, man, that's like a whole rabbit hole right there. Seriously. Yeah.
So after that was my thing. After martial arts, I kind of segued into parkour, and we actually founded some kind of sports federation, let's say. It's called Parkour One, and the roots are in Switzerland.
Okay.
So that's my connection to Switzerland. And then roughly like 5 years ago, when we met, I was kind of roaming around in Spain at that time, and then we thought about where to move when we got together, and there was Cologne, there was Barcelona, and there was Basel in Switzerland, and we decided for Basel for good reasons, because it's a beautiful city. So,
exactly.
And we tried out the others as well. For a little while.
Yeah, I have to say, like, all three of those they're good choices. I mean, I'm living in basically like a little province of like 11,000 people. I'm definitely a weird person where I'm living, Like,
you're a gem. You're a unique standout piece.
Yeah, but it's just like, it gets annoying when you just go to these regular bonfires, and people are just like, where are you from? Well, and I've been answering that for like 13 years. So it's like living in a, more mixed city would be a relief in that sense. You have more of these conversations instead of like the conversations where it's just like, huh? They just like, why?
Yeah.
But
it also crossed my mind, like, just before, when we were talking about the expat thing. I guess our circle of friends basically is a mix of expat people from all over the place, from like Brazil and Cyprus and France and the US, Germany. It's like a
Belgium, Spain, all over the place.
It's an interesting mix, but
I'm
happy to be connected with all of these people.
Yeah, it's such a rich. I think I can just imagine the conversations they just turn into these multifaceted, and just even the fact that you have that thing where you are out of your home country that just creates such a. I don't know how to explain it other than if you haven't done it, you know, like you can tell people that have never been out of even their own country, even their own, like even sometimes they're like even the own city or like the area, you know, just unfortunately it just kind of limits their openness to new ideas in general. I feel like, you know, sometimes I remember going to one bonfire here and I'm coming and I was like totally by myself and relaxed and like looking forward to hanging out with these, it was like 40 guys. It's like a birthday party. Only guys are allowed. And I was like, whatever, I'll just go. And I'm like looking at the stars, you know, cause it was a really clear night and out here, obviously there's not much light pollution. And I was like, and one of the guys that was like walking with me, I was like, oh man, check out the stars. He's like, dude, who looks at the stars? You know, like that was like, he totally shut me down. I was like, oh great. That's what it's going to be like tonight, you know? Yeah. It's like, who doesn't look at the stars, you know? But they totally was like, are you like, basically, am I gay for thinking that, you know? That's what I got classified as, you know? Just like, Jesus Christ, guys, you know? A little bit of like, not like just looking out there, you know? Do you know it's like a gas ball? They're like, I don't know, it could be a hole in a blanket for all they know, you know? So I don't know.
I'm totally with you. I also look at the stars. I like the stars.
But you practiced jujitsu or not jujitsu, or what kind of martial arts did you do before you got into parkour?
No, not jujitsu. Well, when I was 6, I started with judo.
Ah, yeah. That's typical for Germans, right? Yeah,
Yeah, jujitsu wasn't a thing
at
that time. It was not really present, and then I went to Kung Fu, Shaolin Kung Fu.
Oh, cool.
And did that for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
that was a cool transition.
Yeah, I mean, the judo thing was, you know, what, when you're 6 years old, you know, I don't know. I was never a soccer guy, and I was always drawn to martial arts. And my parents kind of put me in this club, and I never wanted to go. But after each training session, I loved it, right? So it's like, I don't want to go, but then afterwards, oh yeah, can I please stay here? And but for me, it was always too. I don't know. I wanted something more, you know, tough, you know, like the Shaolin idea that I had from the movies was kind of intriguing and fascinating to me. So I was drawn to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good basis. I've never really, we do judo every now and then just because when in jiu-jitsu, when you start standing, it's basically like, it's better when sometimes we have guys with, well, all the guys basically here that are practicing jiu-jitsu grew up doing judo. Yeah. And so I have an immense respect for their game and standing, because that's basically 90% of everything there. In jiu-jitsu, you can just sit down, which is kind of weird, you know, just like who just sits down at the beginning of a fight, you know? So let's go to the ground. And so that's kind of what I tend to do with these guys. I just sit down and they're just like, huh? Yeah. But that's cool. You know, my son does the same thing. He goes and he has that feeling, and then he afterwards he's always stoked about it. But at first, you're right. It's like he's like, it's kind of boring almost. There's a lot of technical training in judo, right? And to get your belt, it's very structured. You have to just do these things.
Yeah.
Whereas,
and also, like it was almost too close to social for me. I was quite shy at that time, you know. Oh no, I have to kind of wrestle with these other kids.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you know, it's super body contact.
Yeah.
And starting at a young age like that, 6, 7. I mean, we had the story with my boy was 8, you know, and then they got in kind of, him and his good friend, they didn't talk to each other for like a month because something happened at judo where like one of them kind of overpowered the other one, and it was not for the egos. It wasn't good. And they had to take a break from each other, you know? But
lots of life lessons learning,
but it's definitely a good school for, you know, learning discipline and learning to get to know your body, work with your body, and also power through some hard training sessions.
Yeah, that's kind of like the way that I structured this conversation for myself in my mind before we got online. I was thinking about like how to bring that together with what you were talking about this confirmation bias. That was in one of these videos I was checking out. And then I mean, what do you have to say about confirmation bias, Rebecca? Like, what's your take on that? Because that ties for me directly into my martial arts training, but it also becomes like a life thing, you know?
Sure. There are a couple of, I mean, it's a natural thing, right? So if anybody isn't familiar with confirmation bias, it's essentially that in a way, our brains look for certainty and they look for stability and structure in the world around us. And so when we have a certain belief system, our brains are constantly looking for the evidence that backs that system up. Yeah. And this is part of the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, in that when we have a fixed mindset, it's that I'm only looking for that evidence that backs up my belief system, so that confirms my bias. And anything else that detracts from that, or that might be counterintuitive to what I'm believing, I just throw out.
Yeah.
And the growth mindset is this is part of that space making. It just leaves the space for being able to hold multiple perspectives, and that I might have a bias or a belief system that looks in this one direction, but there's also the awareness that with that comes a lot of different perspectives. I mean, between Mathias and I, we also see the world very differently. We are both coaches. We coach in very different ways, but there are infinite ways to get to a vision or a goal, or where we're just increasing awareness. You can come at it through so many different angles. Sports being a great place to become more aware. You see the certain habits and things that come through in every different place. You can also do that staring up at the stars. You can do that in a cave, or you can do that on a dance floor. You know, there's no one place. And I think when we're just aware of confirmation bias, we can't help it. We naturally do this all the time. And just to be aware that even though there's something that I'm truly believing is perhaps the right way for me or my truth, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only way. And so it's just that space, that openness to believe that it could come in a lot of different forms.
Yeah, I think some people, like, I definitely have that too. Like, I have a feeling sometimes like you're afraid to lose what you believe in or something, just by being open to something new. You have like this, there's like this push and pull. Like, if I admit that I'm wrong, then I lose this sense of security or something. But it's not really like that. I think like the more you're open, the more you realize maybe. Well, but as you were talking, I was interested in something that your differences in coaching style, that interests me, since I have you both here. So like, cause that's probably, I don't know if that's too personal, but the style of coaching probably, what do you guys think some of the differences are? Like, where do they meet? Where do they?
So, well, you have to share. We have to do that the other way, you know, like,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, so here's what I think about your coaching.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
I think that one like special ability that you have is to connect with people very quickly and very easily. So people feel very safe with you. And so you have more of the compassionate approach, where people are really able to open up to also like some painful places and just feel safe and good about it. I think that's what you do also, not only in coaching, also with everyone else, you know, like with your friends and family. Yeah. Thanks.
That's nice to hear. I like to slap people around sometimes too, though. I just have to add that in so that you don't think I'm softy. So I think that highlights one of the ways, because I see him behind the scenes, there's an immense amount of compassion. But one of the biggest things with Mathias is the aspect to be able to take a whole lot of information and very quickly get clear. So clarity is always at the core. down to what is really at the root of what's happening. And there are times where it's like, man, just a bit like the sword coming in and just cutting through all the lack of clarity, not chopping the clients down, cutting through the lack of clarity and just saying like, look, hey, let's just cut straight to it. And there's something so valuable about that honesty, that directness, that clarity, that, yeah, I think as well, it plays into the types of folks where they are when they come to us. Because I tend to work with a lot of folks that are stepping into the process very new. And on the flip side, you know, in that place of a lot of insecurity, not quite sure how this is working. And I think you tend to work a lot with folks who are already in the middle of a process and have been really tackling a lot of things and are looking to dive really deep into how do I take it to the next level.
Thank you. That was a nice summary.
Yeah, I appreciate that you guys didn't just go for the negative things. You know, like you guys both took out like the positive stuff. That's a good sign. That's a nice thing. Like to have that and be like, you know, you do this wrong, you do that wrong, It's like, no, that it's interesting though. I was thinking about that myself this morning. Just it's funny because as you're saying that cutting through down to, it's almost like the, you know, like this book, what was it called? Find the Why. I think it was, you know, just getting this, like I'm one of these people that I just have like too much going on. Like I just, you know, that'd be the first thing you say, Remington, you need to cut out like 80% of what you're doing. If podcasting is important to you, just do don't do anything else. If this is what you want to do that. Because then you're building a van. You want to do van life. You got a second YouTube channel, you're doing van life. And then you're building a pool in the backyard, but you're doing it half of it yourself because you want to save how much you want to save. So that you're doing that. And then you got 3 kids. You guys want to do vacation. You're doing all these things, you know, you got multiple, and so you're doing them all at about 10%. You know, and I noticed that in myself. And every time it's like, why can't I have such a hard time, I guess, saying no, or I'm I'm just so happy at the chance. We did a streaming thing in Dresden. We took all of our gear with us and for like an orchestra, and we could do a live stream, and it was like, yeah, let's do this. But it just took us like a week of preparation and all this. It took us completely away from a whole nother thing. And we did it. And we did a good job, and it all worked out, you know. But it was just like sometimes why can't you just say no and just kind of double down on one thing? I don't know. It's a sickness. I don't know. It's also maybe ADD.
It's also, I mean, it's also great. I don't see it so negative. I think it's a great personality trait as well to be able to creatively come up with all of these different fields of interest, you know. There have been many ways of describing these personalities. Like you came up with this sparkler versus laser thing.
What's it called?
It would be a sparkler, right? The person who is kind of creative and involved with many different things at the same time,
and energy going in a lot of different directions, right? So if you think like the sparkler, it's just ping ping ping.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. And the laser would be someone who is really focused on one thing and goes all the way with it, goes very deep. But you need both, you know, like the laser has basically no ideas. He needs the sparkler to spark ideas. And the sparkler needs the laser to get things done.
Yeah. It's sometimes interesting when people find each other like that and you have like this good mix. It's probably really advantageous to both of your lives to have that mix. I see that with Franzi and I, we have sometimes we have good mixes in some places, but some places we have like we're totally the same, and you're like, oh, that's a blind spot for both of us. That's not so good, you know. Check that out.
Oh, yeah. We have that too.
We have that as well, because it's never just a clear label, right?
No. Yeah.
Because we both have bits of each of those things, and with the sparkler aspect, one of my coaches said something that really helped, because he said, I see that you keep talking about doing less.
And all right, cool. So yeah, this is what it looks like when it's dark. Okay, so continue. I'm sorry that happened. You're talking about we're talking about the laser and the sparkler. Exactly.
Yeah. So because I had the same kind of discussion that I should do less as the sparkler. And this coach was saying, well, what if it's about not doing less? Because your nature is naturally something that likes to have inspiration in a lot of different areas. What if it's more about slowing down? And it's about the concept that I have about efficiency, and this idea of, no, it needs to be, instead of efficiency as nature views it, which is sustainability, can I sustain this for a long time? I was viewing it on a time scale, like it needs to be done faster, because especially when you live with somebody who has a lot of beautiful laser characteristics, he's able to just focus his energy and attention in certain cases where I'm just going, I see how quickly he does these things. For me, it's when I slow down, it's helpful, because then I can do a lot of things. It may take me longer, but I'm still spreading out my energy in that way, but in a much more sustainable mode.
That's interesting. Yeah. That you can slow it down like that. And I guess you're right. Like for people like that, like I'm the same way. So I'd have to just take that as a cue to like understand that, I'll get it done. It might take me longer. Even it's just the thing is like, it seems like even longer. So wait, now I've got 10 things going on. And so now if I slow all those down, then it's going to take me even longer to get those all done, but at least I won't burn myself out. And yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. I feel like that with like, I've learned that with going in this ice bathing from Wim Hof. He has like this whole ice bathing thing, and in jiu-jitsu, it's the same way, like just having this patience. And I guess the way that I wanted to tie that in before we take off, I know you guys have like the next appointment coming up, and I hope that we can do this again, because I feel like we have like so much to dive into. So
yeah, absolutely, would be super cool.
Yeah, it's a very nice conversation, and hopefully one day, I always think like if the people that I meet here that are close to me, I always think that as an excuse to actually travel and come out and do
totally
like in person conversation, which would be just great right now. But this, I guess I'm trying to bring it back. You have like this confirmation bias thing, and I see that in jiu-jitsu, and I see like this patience thing, and it just turns for me, it kind of becomes it turns all into one thing. And when I go to when I'm on the mats and I have like that patience and I'm not trying to rush it, I'm better. That's for sure. Like I have a better session for sure. And then you just tend to trust yourself more. I think in parkour it's probably the same thing. God, I see these videos of these guys like with the head cams doing things in Abu Dhabi on top of, I saw one the other day where I couldn't barely even watch it. It was just so, how far along do you go down those lines, Matt? Like where's your adrenaline level at?
Well, I'm retired, right? So I've been very active, maybe like around 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. And that was before the whole thing became a hype. So what parkour for us actually is quite different from what you see now on YouTube, right? So for us, it was more like to play out in nature and in the city, to play with your surroundings and use them as obstacles for training, but also, small stuff, like the biggest part of the training was like practicing small stuff. And then of course the big and fancy jumps, they make it into the videos that later, spread around on the internet. So, and also the people that you saw, I bet most of their training is, ground level, jumping, balancing practice and all of that stuff. But one other thing that came to mind when you talk about slowing down and your jiu-jitsu practice, I find it super valuable to take the focus away from what you do to how you do it. Like, it makes such a big difference to, be less focused on what is it exactly that you do and what the outcome is and what the expectations are and all of that stuff, but to really amp up on the quality of how you do it. That makes your whole experience better, makes the outcome better, increases your joy and whatever is involved. Yeah. So
yeah, it's like going down this layer, this onion, trying to get down to how you're doing something. If you go in there and you have that, I don't know, I have like this thing I do sometimes. I think to myself, like, it's I want to respect like the art of it's called the martial arts. So it's not I go and I want to maybe even show respect to the art. Like I want to practice so that, like, if these higher ranking red belts that are in heaven can look down and be like, that was good jujitsu, like just kind of doing it, not for myself, but maybe for like was that good jujitsu right now? Or am I just flailing around like a little white belt right now?
You kind of feel it, right? I mean, if you pulled a nice move and you feel like, oh, that felt kind of fluid, that felt like flow, then it's probably good jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. You can't really fake it. Yeah.
We had that in parkour always, when a certain line, a certain sequence of jumps really feels good, it probably also was good and also looked good, and if it felt stuck in some places or out of rhythm, then it also wasn't the best.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, guys, I'll let you go. It was an interesting conversation. I've never had a power outage. I'm glad that my cell phone's still working, so I just kind of hit you up with my cell phone network real quick here.
Super nice.
But I'll just hit you guys up afterwards. I'll release the video and send it to you. And thanks again for your time. And hopefully we can do this again.
Let's do it again. I think that would be super cool as well to play a little bit more with playing with the martial arts and diving into the mindset stuff. It's really, really cool. And it's cool as well what you're exploring and all the different things that you're playing with. So yeah, would love that.
Yeah, thanks again for your time. I'll talk to you guys later then.
Yeah, sounds good.
Take care.
Ciao.
Ciao.